Now we've got the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate in Wisconsin, Mandela Barnes. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Hey, of course. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really excited to be joining you today.
So you've just announced the Ron against Roe tour. So first off, can you speak on Ron Johnson's record on abortion?
Well, it's been a terrible record on abortion. It's been dangerous, and it's going to continue to put women's lives at risk. Ron Johnson's already shown us who he is. 8 different times he sponsored a federal abortion ban. And he's also sponsored legislation that bans abortion, even in cases of rape or incest, or if the life of the mother is at risk. We're talking about a person who celebrated the Dobbs decision, a person who said that if women in the state didn't like the 1849 abortion ban, didn't like the laws in their state, then they could just move. It's a completely callous response from somebody who's elected to represent everybody. He certainly does not care about the lives, the health, and safety of women here in Wisconsin.
Well, then I guess I should ask, where do the people of Wisconsin stand on that issue? Because ostensibly he would be holding these positions to appeal to somebody. So where do the majority of Wisconsinites stand?
The majority of Wisconsinites stand on the right side of this issue. 70% of people across the state think that Roe should be the law of the land. And people do not support Ron Johnson's out-of-touch extreme position. He's a person, like I said, who will continue to take these stances that are against the will of the people. Now, we have a real opportunity to get rid of Ron Johnson, to expand the majority, to codify abortion access, the right to choose in the law once and for all. It's one of the many things that this campaign is about. And Ron Johnson is going to continue to stand against us every step of the way if he gets reelected. But instead, we can elect someone who puts the rights of women first.
How has the issue of Roe changed the calculus since you've been campaigning? Have you heard from independents or Republicans or other people that otherwise wouldn't have come out to support a Democratic candidate?
Oh, I've certainly heard from independents, and I've heard from Republican women who are frustrated, they're fed up. I talked to a woman who actually even showed up to a rally one day, and she said that I will be the first Democrat that she's ever voted for because of Ron Johnson's position on abortion.
So Ron Johnson also made news announcing that all federal spending should be discretionary, which is Republican speak for ending Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid by mandating that they have to be renewed every year. And we all know that there is no planet on which Republicans would renew any of these programs. So what's your reaction to these programs being on the chopping block by virtue of what Ron Johnson is saying?
Well, it's a part of a longer term strategy that Ron Johnson has cooked up, right? We've seen these things before, efforts to privatize Social Security. And look, people work their entire lives. I think about my own family members, my grandfather, my dad, like my mother, just people who work their entire lives. And they paid into a system. And just like so many others across this country, expect to see that return, which they should. This isn't some handout. This is a program that people have paid for their entire working lives, and people put their bodies on the line. And nobody, especially Ron Johnson, gets to take that away from them, especially, considering the fact that in the U.S. Senate, he's doubled his wealth. And Ron Johnson's a person who will go to the Senate, double his own wealth, make his donors even richer, but make life harder for everybody else. That's exactly who he is. And we shouldn't expect anything else. We definitely shouldn't expect anything more. And it's honestly a shame, right? Yeah, I talk to working people every day. People want to be able to look forward to their retirement. Ron Johnson wants to even raise the retirement age. One of his suggestions was that we should put seniors back to work. I mean, it's irresponsible, if not downright harmful. And it's a shame. It is a shame.
I want to expand on exactly that point. Ron Johnson is one of the wealthiest members in Congress. Can you speak on how this guy has used his office to enrich himself, and especially to do so in a state where he can prey on the financial fears of the working class?
Well, let's talk about the 2017 tax bill. He was initially a no vote on it till he was able to secure or orchestrate $215 million in tax deductions for his 2 biggest donors. This is a tax plan that benefited his company, and it benefited him personally. And working people continue to get left in the dust by out-of-touch, self-serving politicians. He's also been against Medicare negotiating prescription drug costs because he said it may hurt the profits of his big pharma donors. He voted against capping the cost of insulin. This is a person who's voted to repeal the Affordable Care Act, and signaling that he'd do it again if given the opportunity to. So not only is Ron Johnson making himself richer, not only is he making himself more wealthy, he's doing that at the expense of hardworking people in this state and in this country.
Now, switching gears a little bit, the NRSC is campaigning against you using words like dangerous and different. There have been mailers that, of course, use the tactic of darkening your skin. What's your reaction to these racist attacks? And what do you think it says about Republicans that this is what they're forced to resort to?
Well, what it says about Ron Johnson and his campaign is that they don't have anything to talk about in terms of his record. It has been an abysmal failure for working class people in Wisconsin. He's continued to leave us behind every step of the way. There isn't a bunch of positive Ron Johnson ads on TV, in people's mailboxes, or on social media, because there is no record for Ron Johnson to run on. His biggest achievement, as I mentioned before, in the U.S. Senate was the 2017 tax bill that benefited his wealthiest donors, his own company, and himself personally, on the backs of working class Americans. Now, with that being said, all they can do is lie. All they can do is create diversions and distractions. They can only try to distort my record in an effort to paint me as somebody that's unfavorable as Ron Johnson. But we've been doing the hard work that Ron Johnson has refused to do when it came to supporting our small businesses during their most difficult time, when it came to supporting our small family farmers, when it came to our Main Street Bounce Back program to help revitalize main streets and communities all across Wisconsin. That's the work Ron Johnson's been absent for. But we're going to continue to push ahead. We're going to talk about the things that we have done, and we're still going to hold Ron Johnson accountable, because there's no amount of lies that Ron Johnson can concoct that can distract from his actual failed record, that can actually distract from his position, his extreme out of touch position on abortion and his selling out of working class people.
That's actually a great segue into my next question, which is, what is your platform? What are you focusing on in this race?
Well, this is about rebuilding the middle class. I'm here because of the opportunities of American manufacturing and the strength of American labor unions. My granddad moved to Milwaukee after his service in World War II, got a job as a union steelworker, walked in the factory one day, walked out 35 years later. My dad followed in his footsteps, third shift on an assembly line. My mother was a public school teacher for 30 years. They were both very active union members. And those jobs were the ticket to the middle class for them. But unfortunately, those tickets to the middle class are in short supply. It's more difficult for people, especially in my age group, to get ahead. There is a real lack of opportunity that's led to some devastating consequences in urban centers like Milwaukee, but also more rural communities that have been experiencing overdose deaths at an alarming rate with no chance of slowing down. It's because of the desperation that comes as a result of opportunity leaving communities.
Okay, so we wake up, it's November 9th. You're the 52nd Democrat elected to the Senate. We're able to hold the House. What could the people of Wisconsin expect now out of the Senate?
Well, the people from Wisconsin can expect a vote to end the filibuster and finally get to work for working people, expanding the right to choose and protecting abortion access across this country. Also bringing back good paying manufacturing jobs, the kind of jobs that Ron Johnson doesn't mind if they leave the state of Wisconsin or even leave this country for that matter. And you can also expect someone who's going to vote to support our democracy. Now, I'm telling you, when it comes to the 51st or 52nd vote, somebody needs to tell John Fetterman he's going to have to wait in line because he'll have to be number 52. And I do think about the opportunities we actually have, right? Like 50 years of precedent was overturned with the Dobbs decision. Again, we can codify the right to choose and abortion access into law once and for all, codifying Roe, right? This is something that has been fundamentally, this shows a fundamental flaw in a totally broken system that Ron Johnson has been more than happy to participate in.
Now, what would you say to a voter who's on the fence about voting for you? What have you found since you've been on the campaign trail, since you found these voters who may never have voted for a Democrat before, may not be interested in turning out? What do you say to those people?
Well, this is about opportunity. This is about coming back around, making sure that people's quality of life is at a certain standard that Ron Johnson refuses to take us to. Minimum wage hasn't gone up since 2009. Right. Wisconsin still has the federal minimum wage of $7.25. This is a real problem, and it limits folks' mobility. People in my age group can't even buy a house. College is unaffordable. Other opportunities to get into the workforce are not the same as they were when my granddad moved to Wisconsin after World War II. And at the same time, you have people like Ron Johnson who say that we have enough jobs in Wisconsin, which cannot be further from reality.
All right, let's finish off with this. A little bit of a lightning round just to I guess, lighten things up. What do you do for fun when you're not campaigning? As much fun as I'm sure campaigning is.
Yeah, I try to get a run in every now and then. That's what's keeping me going all this time.
Yeah. What are your guilty pleasures?
My appetite is wild, man. My sweet tooth is out of control.
Yeah.
Cannot tell you, it is so bad.
And what was your best day on the campaign trail?
My best day on the campaign trail had to be primary election night. There was just so much energy. We had a really great party. I saw a lot of friends I haven't seen in years, and it was a great time.
Okay, Mandela, how can we help?
So if anybody wants to help, you can go to mandelabarnes.com. Please chip in. There are 39 days to go. The reality is this is the only competitive Senate race where Republicans are outspending Democrats. We're getting outspent 2-1 on television right now, and the race is still incredibly close. A couple polls came out a couple weeks ago. One had me down a point, one had me up a point. Another one has us in a dead heat. And with that being said, we need every dime of support that we can get to close this gap. We can win this race, but it's only going to happen if we have the resources to get our message out there to help us spread it far and wide.
Thank you for, such an inspiring candidacy. I know the entire nation is super excited about your campaign. So thank you for taking the time to speak with me today.
Of course. Thank you for being here.